Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be talking about a process known as transpiration. Now transpiration is typically taught in the photosynthesis module, usually in this level of detail at Key Stage 4. So let's think about what transpiration is, and then we're going to talk about some environmental or abiotic, non-living factors that can either increase or decrease the rate at which transpiration occurs. So we've got a leaf over to the side here. Now, I've said in a previous video that on the underside, and also to a lesser extent on the upper surface of the leaf, we have these holes or pores called stomata. Now, transpiration is the evaporation and diffusion of water from inside the leaves of a plant from those stomata. So we're going to basically have water, which is H2O, coming out of the leaf. That's what transpiration is. It's the evaporation, the diffusion and subsequent evaporation from within the leaf of water. Water vapor diffuses through those stomata. Now, the flow of water from the roots to the leaves is called the transpiration stream, and it carries water for photosynthesis to the leaves along with essential minerals. So let's just put that transpiration sort of stream in place. So we'll write down, so we have initially our root hair cell, root hair cells rather. Now they are extensions of what would be the roots. Then from the roots, the water would travel either via the apoplast or symplast pathway into the xylem. Now the xylem are vessels that are continuous all through, up through the stem, up the plant to the leaf. So it would go through the xylem to the leaf, where it would then clearly evaporate. So this is just briefly, in a nutshell, our transpiration stream. We're going to have water coming into the root hair cell via osmosis, passing to the roots, and then along this transpiration stream. Now, let's think about some of the factors that are going to affect this. In fact, before that, it should be said that due to the capillarity of water and the cohesion that water molecules have with one another, you get this continual sort of drawing up of water, if you like. As water evaporates from the leaf, that pulls water up through the plant. So as water is lost from this leaf, we're going to have water being drawn up from the root hair cells into the roots, up through the xylem, replacing that almost. So let's make a note of the factors that would affect the rate at which this diffusion and evaporation and diffusion of water from inside the leaf would occur at. So the factors affecting transpiration. The first is temperature. Second, wind speed. So I'm going to list the four factors and then we'll explain exactly how they affect transpiration. Thirdly, we have humidity. And the last one that's really important to consider is light intensity. So let's think through each of these factors and how they affect transpiration. So temperature. If we were to increase, we'll imagine increasing these factors at each point. So if we were to increase the temperature, that would increase the rate of transpiration. So that would increase the rate of, and I'm just going to put a T in a circle to represent transpiration, that process there. So if we increase the temperature, it would increase the rate of transpiration. Let's think why. And that's because as the air temperature increases, the air and water molecules gain kinetic energy. So they move faster. When particles gain kinetic energy, they move faster. So the water molecules would evaporate and diffuse from the palisade cells, the cells in the leaf, much faster. and they'd therefore escape through the stomata faster. So transpiration is increased. So basically increase the temperature, increase the kinetic energy to the particles, so the whole process just happens faster. So if you increase the temperature, you get an increased rate of transpiration. Wind's an interesting one. If you increase the amount of wind, that too would increase the rate of transpiration. Now that's because as the water vapor molecules diffuse out of the leaf, the wind would blow them away. So the wind blowing blows them away, those water molecules, away from near the leaf. And what that does is help to maintain a steep diffusion gradient. So by diffusion gradient, we mean that sort of water concentration difference, if you like. If the wind is blowing water away around the leaf, it means there's technically lower water concentration, if you like, outside of the leaf compared to within inside. And as water goes from where there's a lot to where there's a little, from high concentration to low concentration, water would move out. So transpiration rate increases when it's windy because you have that diffusion gradient. Let's think about humidity. So if we increase humidity, let's think what would happen. Well, unlike the other three, when we increase humidity, we actually get a decrease in the rate of transpiration. It's the only one that would make the transpiration rate smaller or fall. Now that's because the number of water molecules, if you like, outside of the leaves would increase. If it's more humid, there'd be more water in that atmosphere. So that would mean that less water vapor is able to diffuse out of the stomata. That diffusion gradient, therefore, is very small. So the rate of transpiration is reduced. Transpiration would occur quicker if there's more water in the leaf than outside. But if around the leaf there's a lot of water, if it's a very humid day, then we don't have that gradient. So transpiration and the loss of water actually occurs at a much slower rate. And finally, let's look at light intensity. Well, if we increase the light intensity, as I've already said, that would increase the rate of transpiration. In high light intensity, a plant can photosynthesize quicker. So when it photosynthesizes quicker, it would use up more carbon dioxide and more water. So its stomata would open more to allow more carbon dioxide diffuse in from the air. But with the stomata open more, it means more water vapor can diffuse out, so the transpiration rate increases. So increase the light intensity, there'd be more photosynthesis essentially. And the formula for photosynthesis is carbon dioxide and water using the sun's energy will make glucose and oxygen. And you want that would happen faster. Now to make that happen faster, you need to open up those pores, those stomata, to let CO2 in. But when you let CO2 in, you let water vapor out. So increasing the light intensity actually will increase the rate of transpiration. It will increase the rate of water loss. So there are four main factors that affect transpiration. What I want to do is just explain about a piece of equipment called the potometer, because you can observe transpiration using this piece of equipment, and it's readily available in a lot of lab settings. So I'm just going to finish the video by showing this potometer and just explaining how it works and how you can nicely demonstrate transpiration in action. So what we'll do is, as normal, reduce the size of the screen. We'll leave it over here, just so I can draw this piece of equipment. So you'll have to forgive me, it's not the best sketch by any means, but so what I'm just drawing here some sample of plants. I'll just colour them in green. My sketches aren't the best, but hopefully you can see what I'm trying to achieve here. So we have these plants contained within this kind of tubing. So we have plastic tubing here, and these two bits that I'm just colouring in red here are airtight seals that we have on that tubing. And that tubing is continuous with what we call a capillary tube. We put a capillary tube in place there, so we'll label that. So we have a capillary tube, we've got airtight seal here, plastic tubing, and then we have water inside this tubing. So this is our basic potometer. So it's a bit of capillary tubing with a plastic casing with airtight seals so that we can just have a leaf or a sample of plant within that tubing that's going to make use of that water to photosynthesize. And this whole piece of apparatus is called a potometer. So this is a potometer. Now what we have underneath there is, if we put here in place, say, a ruler with a graduate, so just colour this in. So we've got a ruler here with a graduated scale. If we are going to observe transpiration in action, then what we want to do is essentially submerge this plant within this airtight capillary tubing. We actually cut the leafy shoot under the water to prevent excess gas getting in, and by cutting it at a slant, it allows for a maximum sort of surface area for the absorption of water. So we cut the leafy shoot within the water, we put it in at the top, we have airtight seals, we've got this capillary tube, and this point here where I'm labelling it, I'll put it in purple, this arrow here, that's our meniscus. We look where the water level is using our graduated scale. Now, if the plant is photosynthesizing and using up the water, if it's taking the water in to itself and transpiration is occurring and that water is then going to evaporate from the leaves, going back to what I said about transport of water along that kind of transpiration stream, water as it leaves the leaf should surely be pulled from within that capillary tube upwards. The plant would draw water up. So this meniscus over time would actually move this way because the water would be drawn up, and you can measure using that graduated scale the amount of movement or how far that meniscus moves in a given time. So you can look at the rate of transpiration. What you should actually see is that if you were to increase the temperature, increase the wind speed, decrease humidity, and increase light intensity, that meniscus would actually move a lot faster. So that's just a little bit about the potometer, a method that we employ to measure transpiration rate, transpiration being the diffusion and evaporation of water from within inside the leaves of a plant. Okay, hope all that helps.